This is our world 6 million years ago. Deserts where there are none today are covered in thick green forests. Mighty rivers flow through deep valleys. Mountains push up from the ground and volcanoes explode into the sky. Here lives Casey, an early human ancestor. She looks like an ape, but she's different. Her legs are longer, her back is straighter. She walks on 2 feet. The air is warm and wet. There is no ice at the North Pole. The oceans are warm and full of strange creatures. The earth is alive with danger, giant snakes, poisonous spiders, monstrous cats with dagger-like teeth. The ground shakes with earthquakes and volcanoes. But life is changing. The forests are shrinking, but the tall grasses provide new opportunities for those who can adapt. New animals and new hunters move into the grasslands. Casey's group must change or die. They learn to walk upright to see over the tall grasses, and to work together to find food and stay safe. They use sticks and stones, make no villages, plant no crops, wear no clothes. But over millions of years, their brains grow larger, their teeth change shape. They become better at hunting and gathering. They learn to communicate with each other, passing on their knowledge from one generation to the next. And so the journey of humankind begins. The morning air fills with strange sounds as Django and his family wake up in their tree nest. A deep, rumbling call echoes across the valley, followed by the crash of breaking branches. Something enormous moves through the forest below them. Django peers down through the leaves and sees a sight that would amaze anyone from our modern world. A massive elephant walks beneath his tree. But this elephant looks nothing like the ones we know today. It stands twice as tall as a modern elephant, with tusks that curve downward like giant hooks instead of pointing up toward the sky. This creature is called Dinotherium, and it uses its strange tusks to strip bark from trees and dig roots from the hard ground. Django watches in wonder as the giant elephant passes by. He has lived for 15 seasons, but he still feels amazed by the incredible animals that share his world. This ancient earth holds creatures so large and strange that they seem like monsters from dreams. Behind the giant elephant, a herd of horses appears at the forest edge. But these horses have 3 toes on each foot instead of the single hoof that modern horses have. They are smaller than today's horses, with striped coats like zebras. They move carefully, always watching for danger, because in this ancient world, death can come from any direction. High above Django's head, a shadow passes over the trees. He looks up to see a bird so large it blocks out the sun. This is Argentavis, a giant condor with wings that stretch wider than a school bus is long. The enormous bird soars without flapping, riding the warm air that rises from the heated ground below. The flying giant reminds Django that his world has layers of danger. Threats come from the ground, from the trees, from the water, and from the sky. Every creature must stay alert every moment of every day. As Django climbs down from his sleeping tree, he hears his group calling from the riverbank. They have found something interesting, and their excited calls tell him to come quickly but quietly. When he reaches the water's edge, he understands their excitement and their caution. A massive cat lies dead beside the river. This is Dinophilus, a false saber-toothed cat with fangs like curved daggers. Something even more powerful killed this dangerous predator during the night. The cat's body is torn and crushed, showing the incredible strength of whatever attacked it. But the dead cat represents opportunity as well as danger. Its killer has left plenty of meat behind, more than Django's small group could eat in many days. The problem is getting to the meat safely. Other scavengers will come soon, and some of them are more dangerous than the original killer. Django's group works quickly and carefully. The adults keep watch while the young ones use sharp stones to cut meat from the carcass. They know they have little time before the real owners of this kill return. In their world, early humans are not yet the top predators. They are clever scavengers who survive by being smarter and faster than their competitors. As they work, massive shapes move in the river behind them. Crocodiles longer than 3 men lying end to end glide through the water like living logs. These ancient crocodiles are even larger than their modern relatives, with jaws that can snap a grown man in half with one bite. The group stays well away from the water's edge. Suddenly, one of the watchers gives a sharp warning call. Hyenas appear at the forest edge, but these are not the hyenas we know today. These creatures are as large as lions, with bone-crushing jaws and the intelligence to hunt in coordinated packs. They have come for the dead cat, and they will not share. Django's group abandons their scavenging and retreats to the safety of the trees. They carry what meat they can, but they leave most of it behind. Survival means knowing when to fight for resources and when to run away. Against the giant hyenas, running is the only smart choice. From their tree refuge, they watch the hyenas tear apart what remains of the saber-toothed cat. Other scavengers arrive too. Vultures with wingspans wider than a man's outstretched arms circle overhead. Small, quick mammals dart in and out, grabbing scraps when the larger predators are not looking. This scene plays out every day across the ancient landscape. Death feeds life in an endless cycle. Every creature that dies becomes food for others, and every creature that lives does so by avoiding becoming food itself. The ground beneath their feet shakes again. In the distance, a volcano glows red against the sky, shooting fountains of melted rock high into the air. When volcanoes erupt in Django's world, they change everything. The ash they spread makes some plants grow better, but it also kills others. Rivers change course when lava flows block their paths. Animals must find new homes when their old ones are buried under rock and ash. These volcanic eruptions will one day help scientists understand Django's world. The ash preserves bones and footprints, creating a record of ancient life that lasts for millions of years. But Django knows nothing of future scientists. He only knows that the shaking ground and burning mountains are part of his world, as natural and expected as sunrise and sunset. As the day grows hot, Django's group moves deeper into the forest, looking for shade and water. They travel in single file along paths made by the countless animals that use these same routes. Every path tells a story written in footprints, broken branches, and scent marks. The forest around them buzzes with life. Insects as large as small birds fly between the trees. Flowers bloom in colors that seem too bright to be real. Fruits hang heavy on branches that bend under their weight. This is a rich world, full of food for those who know where to look and how to get it safely. But it is also a world where everything is connected to everything else. When the climate changes, the plants change. When the plants change, the plant-eating animals change. When the plant-eaters change, the meat-eaters change too. And when all the animals change, creatures like Django must change as well, or they disappear forever. As evening approaches, Django's group prepares for another night in the trees. They have survived another day in their dangerous and wonderful world. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new opportunities, and new wonders. In this ancient time, every sunrise is a victory, and every sunset is a promise that life continues, no matter what dangers the darkness might hold. The story of becoming human is not a straight line. It is more like a tree with many branches, where some branches grow strong and others break off and disappear forever. Each branch represents a different kind of early human ancestor, each one a step on the long journey from ape-like creatures to the humans we are today. 7 million years ago, in the forests and grasslands of ancient Africa, lived a creature that scientists today call Tumai. His real name, given by the people who found his skull, was Sahelanthropus chidensis. Tumai walked the earth when the world was warmer and wetter than today. He lived in a land of thick forests broken by open meadows, where rivers ran year-round and fruit trees grew heavy with food. Tumai looked like an ape in many ways. His brain was no larger than a chimpanzee's brain, about the size of a large orange. His face stuck out like a chimp's face, with big teeth for chewing tough plant materials. His arms were long and powerful for swinging through trees. But something about Tumai was different from the apes. The hole in his skull where his spine connected sat in a different position. This small difference suggests that Tumai might have walked upright sometimes, making him possibly the first creature on the path to becoming human. As thousands of years passed, the descendants of creatures like Tumai changed slowly. The climate grew drier, and the great forests shrank. Open grasslands spread across Africa, creating new challenges and new opportunities for survival. Those who could adapt to these changes lived and had children. Those who could not adapt disappeared forever. 4.5 million years ago, a remarkable creature lived in the woodlands of Ethiopia. Scientists call her species Ardipithecus ramidus, but the most famous individual they found was named Ardi. She lived in a world very different from Tumai's time. The forests were smaller, and grasslands stretched between scattered groups of trees. Artie stood about 4 feet tall, much shorter than most modern humans, but taller than many apes. Her arms were still long like an ape's arms, perfect for climbing trees and swinging from branch to branch. But her hip bones had changed shape in important ways. These changes made it easier for her to walk on 2 legs when she came down to the ground. Artie's teeth tell us about her diet. She ate fruits and nuts from trees, but she also ate meat when she could get it. Her people had learned to work together to find food and protect each other from danger. The males and females in her group were almost the same size, which suggests that they cooperated more than they fought with each other. 1 million years after Artie's time, a new kind of early human appeared in the fossil record. The most famous individual was a small female who lived 3.2 million years ago. Scientists named her Lucy, and her species was called Australopithecus afarensis. Lucy's discovery changed everything scientists thought they knew about early humans. Lucy stood only 3.5 feet tall, smaller than Artie, but her body showed that she was fully committed to walking on 2 legs. Her hip bones, leg bones, and even her spine had all changed to make upright walking easier and more efficient. She could still climb trees when she needed to escape danger or find food, but the ground had become her main home. Lucy lived in a world of open grasslands with scattered trees. The climate was drier than in Artie's time, and the seasons changed more dramatically between wet and dry periods. This meant that Lucy and her people had to be flexible about what they ate and where they found it. During the wet season, they could find plenty of fruits and young leaves. During the dry season, they had to dig up roots and tubers with sticks and stones. Lucy's brain was still small, about the same size as a chimpanzee's brain, but her hands had changed in important ways. Her fingers were shorter, and her thumbs were longer, making it easier to grip things tightly. This helped her use simple tools like rocks for cracking nuts and sticks for digging up roots. The world continued to change, and so did the creatures that lived in it. 2.5 million years ago, a new type of early human appeared. These people had much larger brains than Lucy's people. Scientists call them Homo habilis, which means handyman, because they were the first to make complex stone tools. Gona lived during the time of Homo habilis. She stood taller than Lucy, about 4.5 feet high, and her brain was much larger. Where Lucy's brain was the size of an orange, Gona's brain was the size of a grapefruit. This bigger brain made her much better at solving problems and remembering where to find food during different seasons. Gona and her people were the first true tool makers. They could look at a piece of stone and see the sharp tool hidden inside it. They learned to strike stones together in just the right way to break off sharp flakes that could cut meat, scrape hides, and crack bones to get the nutritious marrow inside. These stone tools changed everything. With sharp cutting tools, Gona's people could process meat much more efficiently. They could cut through tough hides that their teeth could never penetrate. They could break open large bones to get at the rich marrow inside. This gave them access to much more nutrition than their ancestors had ever been able to get. Gona's people also created the first home bases. Instead of wandering constantly like their ancestors, they established central camps where they could return each day. They brought food back to these camps to share with the whole group. This sharing behavior was something completely new in the world. It meant that everyone in the group could benefit from the success of the best hunters and gatherers. 1.5 million years ago, an even more advanced human ancestor appeared. Boma belonged to the species Homo erectus, which means upright man. These people looked much more like modern humans than any of their predecessors. Boma stood 5.5 feet tall, almost as tall as many modern people. His brain was larger than Gona's brain, about 2/3 the size of a modern human brain. Boma's people were the first humans to master fire. They learned not just to use fire when they found it, but to create fire whenever they needed it. Fire changed their lives in amazing ways. It let them cook their food, making it easier to digest and safer to eat. It gave them light after dark, extending their useful day. It scared away dangerous predators, making their camps much safer. It kept them warm in cold weather, allowing them to live in places their ancestors never could. With fire and advanced tools, Boma's people became the first humans to leave Africa. They spread across Asia, establishing communities in places that are now Georgia, China, and Indonesia. Each group adapted to their new environment while keeping the basic human toolkit of fire, stone tools, and cooperation. Boma's people made beautiful symmetrical hand axes that required great skill to create. These tools were not just functional but artistic, suggesting that their makers took pride in their work. Some of these hand axes were so well made that they seemed too good to actually use, leading scientists to wonder if they might have been made to impress others or as symbols of skill and status. The journey from Tumai to Boma took more than 5 million years. Each step was small, but together they added up to an incredible transformation. Ape-like creatures who lived mostly in trees became upright walking, tool-making, fire-using humans who could survive almost anywhere on Earth. This transformation was not planned or directed. It happened because those individuals who were slightly better at surviving had more children, and they passed their advantages on to the next generation. Over millions of years, these tiny advantages accumulated to create the remarkable creature that would eventually become modern humans. Each of these ancient people faced the same basic challenges that all living things face: finding food, staying safe, and having children who could survive to have children of their own. But the solutions they developed to meet these challenges were unique. No other species has ever combined large brains, precise hands, upright walking, and complex cooperation in quite the same way. The story of human evolution is still being written as scientists discover new fossils and learn new things about our ancestors. But the basic outline is clear. We are the descendants of a long line of survivors, each generation slightly different from the last, each one finding new ways to thrive in a changing world. The first light of dawn touches the African savanna as Zara opens her eyes in the acacia tree where she spent the night. She is a member of Australopithecus afarensis, living 3 million years ago in a world where every day brings the challenge of finding enough food to survive until tomorrow. Her stomach growls with hunger, reminding her that yesterday's meal of roots and berries was not enough. Zara climbs down from her sleeping tree and calls softly to wake the rest of her group. There are 12 of them in total: 4 adult females, 3 adult males, 3 teenagers, and 2 small children. This size gives them the best chance of survival. Too few people and they cannot defend themselves from predators or find enough food. Too many people and they cannot find enough food to feed everyone. As the group gathers in the early morning light, they begin their daily routine of survival. The adults check the area around their sleeping trees for signs of danger. Lion tracks in the soft earth mean they must be extra careful today. Hyena droppings near the water source tell them that the big scavengers were hunting in this area during the night. Kisi, the oldest female in the group, leads them toward a patch of grassland where she remembers finding good digging yesterday. Her memory is their most valuable tool. She knows where different plants grow during each season, where water can be found during dry times, and which paths are safest to travel. The younger members of the group watch everything she does and try to learn from her experience. The morning foraging begins with searching for underground storage organs that modern people call tubers and roots. These plant parts grow beneath the ground like nature's own food storage system. They are full of energy and nutrients, but finding them requires skill and knowledge. Zara picks up a digging stick that she shaped yesterday from a strong branch. The end is pointed and hardened by scraping against rocks. She knows how to read the land to find where the best roots hide. Certain types of grass and small surface plants tell her that good tubers grow beneath them. She pushes her digging stick into the ground and works it back and forth to loosen the soil. The work is hard and makes her hands sore, but after digging for several minutes, she feels her stick hit something solid. She digs more carefully now, using her hands to clear away the dirt. Soon she pulls up a tuber as big as her fist, rich with the starches and sugars that will give her energy for the rest of the day. While the women dig for roots, the men and older children search for other types of food. They look for insects, which are excellent sources of protein. Termite mounds dot the landscape like small hills, and inside them live millions of fat, nutritious termites. The foragers use thin sticks to fish the insects out of their holes, poking the sticks deep into the mound and pulling them out covered with termites. One of the teenage boys, Django, has become very skilled at this termite fishing. He knows how to find the right kind of stick, not too thick to fit in the holes, but not so thin that it breaks. He knows how to move the stick gently so the termites will grab onto it, and how to pull it out quickly before they let go. In just one morning, he can collect enough termites to provide protein for the whole group. The group also searches for fruits and nuts when they are in season. The African landscape provides many different plant foods, but most of them are only available for short periods during the year. The group must remember when each type of food becomes ripe and where to find it. Baobab trees produce large, hard fruits that contain seeds surrounded by a tart, nutritious pulp. The group uses rocks to crack open these fruits, but it takes skill to break them without crushing the valuable food inside. They have learned to choose just the right size rock and hit the fruit at just the right angle. Finding meat requires different skills and more cooperation. Zara's people are not yet skilled hunters of large animals, but they know how to catch small creatures and how to scavenge meat from animals that other predators have killed. When they find a lizard sunning itself on a rock, the whole group works together to catch it. They surround the lizard from all sides, moving slowly and quietly. When the lizard tries to escape, it runs right into the hands of one of the waiting group members. The lizard provides only a small amount of meat, but every bit of protein is precious. Sometimes they find larger sources of meat by following vultures circling in the sky. Vultures lead them to dead animals, where they can scavenge meat that lions and hyenas have left behind. This is dangerous work because the original predators might return, but it provides more protein than the group could get any other way. When they find a carcass, they work quickly and carefully. The adults keep watch for returning predators while the others use sharp stones to cut meat from the bones. They have learned to make these cutting tools by hitting one rock against another until sharp flakes break off. These simple stone tools can cut through hide and meat much better than their fingernails or teeth. Water is another constant concern. During the dry season, many rivers and waterholes disappear completely. The group must remember where water collects in rock pools after rainstorms and where certain trees store water in their hollow trunks. They also know that following animal tracks often leads to water sources because all animals need to drink regularly. The daily search for food takes most of their time and energy. They walk many miles each day, moving from one food source to another as different plants ripen and different opportunities appear. Their feet are tough and calloused from walking on rough ground, and their bodies are lean and strong from constant activity. As the sun reaches its highest point in the sky, the group seeks shade during the hottest part of the day. This is when they rest, groom each other's hair to remove parasites, and the adults teach the children important survival skills. The children learn by watching and copying everything the adults do. Young Amara, only 6 years old, watches carefully as her mother Zara makes a digging stick. She sees how her mother chooses a branch that is neither too hard nor too soft, and how she scrapes the end against a rough rock to make it pointed. Amara tries to make her own digging stick, and though it is not as good as her mother's, she is learning the skills she will need to survive as an adult. The afternoon brings another round of foraging. The group spreads out across the landscape, always staying close enough to call warnings to each other if danger appears. They communicate with simple sounds that carry meaning. A sharp bark means danger is near. A series of low grunts means good food has been found. A long rising call brings the group back together when it is time to move to a new area. As evening approaches, the group must make important decisions about where to spend the night. They need trees that are tall enough to keep them safe from ground predators but strong enough to support their weight. The trees must also be near water and not too close to areas where dangerous animals like to hunt. They choose a grove of acacia trees near a small stream. The thorns on the acacia branches provide extra protection from climbing predators, and the nearby water means they will not be thirsty during the night. Before climbing up to their sleeping nests, they gather soft grasses and leaves to make their beds more comfortable. Building a sleeping nest is a skill that takes practice. The nest must be strong enough to support their weight all night, but comfortable enough to allow restful sleep. They weave branches together and line the nest with soft materials, creating a bed that is safer and more comfortable than sleeping on the ground. As darkness falls, the group settles into their tree nests for another night. They have survived another day in their challenging world by using their intelligence, their cooperation, and the skills they have learned from generations of ancestors. Tomorrow will bring new challenges and new opportunities to find the food and water they need to stay alive. The sounds of the African night surround them as they fall asleep. Lions roar in the distance, hyenas laugh their eerie calls, and small creatures rustle in the grass below. But high in their thorny acacia trees, Zara and her group are as safe as they can be in a world where survival is never guaranteed. Each day for Zara's people is a test of their knowledge, their skills, and their ability to work together. They live without stores or refrigerators, without doctors or medicine, without tools more complex than sharpened sticks and broken stones. Yet they survive and even thrive by using the most powerful tool of all: their growing intelligence and their ability to learn from each other and pass that knowledge on to their children. Koba crouches beside the dying embers of last night's fire, watching the last red glow fade into gray ash. He is a member of Homo erectus, living 1.5 million years ago, and fire has become the center of his world. Without fire, his people cannot survive the cold nights. Without fire, they cannot cook the meat that feeds their growing brains. Without fire, they are just another group of animals struggling to survive in a dangerous world. The morning is cold and damp. Heavy clouds hang low over the landscape, and a light rain begins to fall. Koba knows that keeping fire alive in wet weather is one of the greatest challenges his people face. He carefully scrapes away the wet ash on top of the fire pit, searching for any embers that might still hold life. Deep beneath the surface ash, he finds what he is looking for. A small piece of charcoal still glows with internal heat. Koba's heart fills with relief. Starting a new fire from nothing is possible, but it takes a long time and uses a lot of energy. Keeping an existing fire alive is much easier. He gently blows on the glowing ember while feeding it tiny pieces of dry grass that he keeps stored in a bark container. The grass catches fire, and he slowly adds larger pieces of fuel until flames dance once again in the fire pit. The other members of his group gather around the renewed fire, holding their hands toward the warmth and feeling grateful that their most precious tool has survived another night. Koba's relationship with fire began in his childhood, when he watched the adults in his group tend the flames that kept them alive. Learning to manage fire is one of the most important skills that young people in his group must master. It requires understanding which materials burn well and which ones do not, how to keep flames alive without letting them grow too large, and how to transport fire from one place to another. The group has learned to make fire even when they have no existing flames to work with. Koba picks up his fire-making kit, which consists of a flat piece of dry wood with a small depression carved into it, a straight stick that fits into the depression, and a bundle of the finest, driest grass fibers he can find. He places the flat piece of wood on the ground and puts the tip of the straight stick into the small depression. Then he rolls the stick rapidly between his palms, pressing down hard so that the spinning stick grinds against the wood below. The friction creates heat, and after several minutes of hard work, tiny wood particles begin to glow red-hot. Koba carefully scrapes these glowing particles onto his bundle of dry grass and blows gently on them. The grass begins to smoke, then suddenly bursts into flame. He quickly feeds the new fire with small twigs and gradually larger pieces of wood, until he has created a strong, healthy fire that will burn for hours. Making fire this way is hard work that leaves Koba's hands raw and his arms aching. But this skill has changed everything for his people. They are no longer dependent on finding natural fires started by lightning strikes. They can create fire whenever and wherever they need it. The discovery of fire has transformed how Koba's people eat. Before fire, they could only eat meat raw, which was tough to chew and sometimes dangerous because of harmful bacteria. Raw meat also provided less nutrition because their bodies could not break down all the proteins and fats it contained. Cooking meat over fire makes it much easier to digest and much safer to eat. The heat kills dangerous bacteria that could make them sick or even kill them. Cooked meat is also softer and easier to chew, which means their teeth and jaws do not have to work as hard. Over many generations, this has allowed their teeth to become smaller and their jaw muscles to become weaker, freeing up space in their skulls for larger brains. Koba's group has also learned to cook plant foods over fire. Many roots and tubers that are hard and bitter when raw become soft and sweet when cooked. Cooking breaks down tough plant fibers and makes nutrients easier for their bodies to absorb. This gives them access to many more types of food than their ancestors could eat. The group gathers around the fire as Koba begins to prepare the morning meal. Yesterday, the hunters killed a small antelope, and there is still plenty of meat left from their feast. Koba uses a sharp stone tool to cut the meat into pieces that will cook evenly over the flames. These stone tools represent another great leap forward in human development. While earlier humans made simple tools by breaking rocks to create sharp edges, Koba's people have learned to make much more sophisticated implements. Koba picks up a piece of volcanic rock that he's been working on for several days. This will become a hand axe, one of the most important tools his people make. Creating a good hand axe requires great skill and patience. He must strike the rock with exactly the right amount of force in exactly the right places to shape it into a tool that is both sharp and strong. He holds a smaller rock in his right hand and strikes the larger piece with careful, controlled blows. Each strike removes a small flake of stone, gradually shaping the tool. The work requires intense concentration because one mistake can ruin hours of effort. As Koba works, other members of his group watch and learn. The knowledge of how to make good tools is passed down from older to younger members through careful observation and practice. Each person must learn not only how to strike the stones, but also how to choose the right type of rock, how to hold the pieces properly, and how to see the shape of the finished tool hidden inside the raw stone. The hand axe that Koba is making will be used for many different tasks. Its sharp edge can cut meat, scrape hides clean, chop wood, and dig in hard soil. The pointed end can be used to make holes in leather or wood. The heavy weight of the tool makes it useful for cracking open large bones to get at the nutritious marrow inside. Some of the hand axes that Koba's people make are so perfectly shaped and symmetrical that they seem almost like works of art. These beautiful tools require even more skill to create than ordinary working tools. Some scientists believe that making these perfect hand axes helped develop the parts of the brain that control precise hand movements and planning ahead. The ability to plan ahead and think about the future is becoming more important in Koba's world. His people are no longer content to simply react to immediate needs. They think about what they will need tomorrow, next week, and even next season. They prepare tools and materials in advance, store food for times when hunting is poor, and choose their campsites based on long-term advantages rather than just immediate comfort. This forward thinking has allowed Koba's people to become the first humans to leave Africa and spread to other parts of the world. Some groups have traveled north through the Middle East and into Asia. Others have moved along the coasts, following shorelines that provide reliable sources of food and water. Each group that moves to a new environment faces different challenges and develops new solutions. Those who settle in colder climates learn to make better shelters and warmer clothing. Those who live near water learn to catch fish and gather shellfish. Those who move to mountains learn to hunt different animals and find new types of plant foods. But no matter where they go, all of Koba's people carry the same basic toolkit of survival: fire, stone tools, cooperation, and the growing intelligence that allows them to solve new problems and adapt to new situations. As the day progresses, Koba's group demonstrates the complex social behaviors that set them apart from their ancestors. When the hunters return with fresh meat, they share it with everyone in the group, not just their own families. When someone makes a particularly good tool, they teach others how to make similar tools. When a child is injured, the whole group helps care for the young one until it recovers. This cooperation and sharing allows the group to survive challenges that would destroy individuals acting alone. When one person is sick, others provide food and protection. When one person discovers a new technique or food source, the knowledge quickly spreads to everyone in the group. The evening meal around the fire has become a time for more than just eating. The light and warmth of the flames creates a gathering place where the group shares information about the day, its discoveries, plans for tomorrow's activities, and passes down important knowledge to the younger members. As darkness falls and the group prepares for sleep, they bank the fire carefully to ensure that some embers will survive until morning. Fire has become so central to their survival that they never allow it to go completely out if they can help it. Some members of the group take turns throughout the night adding fuel to keep the flames alive. Koba lies down on his bed of grass and animal skins, listening to the sounds of the night around him. In the distance, He can hear the calls of nocturnal predators, but he feels safe in the circle of firelight that surrounds his group. The flames that dance in the darkness represent more than just warmth and light. They represent the growing power of human intelligence to change the world and create safety in a dangerous environment. The mastery of fire and advanced tool-making has set Koba's people on a path that will eventually lead to modern humans. They have learned to control their environment rather than simply adapting to it. This ability to change the world around them, rather than just changing themselves, marks the beginning of the great journey that will take humans to every corner of the earth and eventually to the stars themselves. Dr. Sarah Chen kneels in the red dust of the African savanna, carefully brushing dirt away from a piece of bone that has been buried for 2 million years. The fossil she has found is small, just a fragment of a skull, but it might hold answers to questions that have puzzled scientists for decades. As she works under the blazing sun, she thinks about the ancient human who once carried this bone as part of their living head. The story of human evolution is like a giant puzzle with most of the pieces still missing. Scientists have found thousands of fossils over the past century, but each new discovery seems to raise more questions than it answers. The bones and stones that our ancestors left behind tell us some things about how they lived, but they cannot tell us everything we want to know. One of the biggest mysteries surrounds the moment when our ancestors first became truly human. What made them different from all the other animals that lived on Earth? Was it their ability to walk on 2 legs? Was it their skill at making tools? Was it their use of fire? Or was it something else entirely? Something that cannot be preserved in stone and bone? Scientists today use many different methods to solve these ancient puzzles. They study the shape of fossil bones to understand how ancient muscles worked and how ancient people moved. They examine tiny scratches on ancient teeth to learn what kinds of food people ate millions of years ago. They analyze the chemistry of ancient bones to discover what the climate was like when those people lived. Modern technology has given scientists new ways to peer into the past. They can now extract DNA from bones that are hundreds of thousands of years old. This genetic information tells them which ancient groups were related to each other, and when different groups of early humans split apart to follow separate evolutionary paths. The DNA studies have revealed surprising things about human history. They show that modern humans shared genes with other ancient human species that lived at the same time. This means that our ancestors sometimes had children with people who were quite different from them, mixing their genes together in ways that helped all humans survive. But many mysteries remain unsolved. Scientists still do not know exactly when humans first began to speak to each other with complex language. They know that language must have developed gradually over millions of years, but the soft tissues that make speech possible do not preserve as fossils. They can only guess about when our ancestors first began to use words to share complex ideas. Another great mystery involves the development of human consciousness and self-awareness. When did our ancestors first become aware of themselves as individuals? When did they first begin to think about the future and make plans that would not pay off for months or years? When did they first begin to wonder about the meaning of life and death? Some clues come from the tools and artifacts that ancient people left behind. About 100,000 years ago, humans began to create objects that seemed to have no practical purpose. They made beads for decoration, painted pictures on cave walls, and buried their dead with flowers and personal possessions. These behaviors suggest that humans had developed the ability to think symbolically and to care about things beyond their immediate survival needs. The mystery of human migration is slowly being solved through a combination of fossil evidence, genetic studies, and archaeological discoveries. Scientists now know that humans left Africa in several waves over hundreds of thousands of years. Each group that migrated faced different challenges and developed different solutions for survival. Some groups learned to survive in the cold climates of Europe and Asia by developing better tools for hunting large animals and making warm clothing from animal skins. Others adapted to life on islands by learning to build boats and navigate across open water. Still others learned to live in deserts by developing efficient ways to find and store water. But even as scientists learn more about where humans traveled and when they arrived in different parts of the world, many questions remain unanswered. How did small groups of early humans manage to survive in completely new environments? How did they learn to hunt animals they had never seen before? and eat plants they had never tasted. The mystery of human cooperation is another puzzle that scientists are still trying to solve. Humans are unusual among animals because they regularly help strangers and work together on projects that benefit the whole group, rather than just themselves. This willingness to cooperate with people outside their immediate families has been crucial to human success. But scientists do not fully understand how or why it developed. Some scientists believe that cooperation developed because groups that worked together were more successful than groups that did not. Others think that the human ability to communicate with language made cooperation possible by allowing people to make agreements and keep promises. Still others suggest that cooperation developed along with human intelligence because smart people could see the long-term benefits of helping others. Modern humans carry within their bodies many reminders of their ancient past. The shape of human teeth reflects millions of years of adaptation to different kinds of food. The length of human arms and legs shows the influence of ancestors who spent part of their time in trees and part of their time walking on the ground. Human brains still contain structures that developed in our earliest ancestors. The parts of the brain that control basic functions like breathing and heart rate are very similar to the same structures in fish and reptiles. The parts that control emotions and memory are similar to those found in other mammals. Only the outer layers of the human brain, which control language and complex thinking, are truly unique to humans and their closest relatives. Even human behavior shows connections to the deep past. People still feel most comfortable in small groups similar in size to the bands that early humans lived in millions of years ago. Humans still prefer landscapes that combine open areas with scattered trees and nearby water, just like the African savannas where human ancestors evolved. The human love of fire also connects modern people to their ancient past. Even today, people gather around campfires and fireplaces not just for warmth, but for the social comfort that fire provides. This attraction to fire may be a genetic memory from the millions of years when fire meant safety, cooked food, and community for human ancestors. Modern human eating habits also reflect ancient adaptations. People crave sweet foods because fruits provided important vitamins for early humans. They enjoy fatty foods because fat was a valuable source of energy that was often hard to find. They prefer their meat cooked rather than raw because their ancestors spent hundreds of thousands of years adapting to a diet of cooked food. As Dr. Chen continues her careful work in the African dust, she knows that each fossil she finds adds one more piece to the giant puzzle of human evolution. The bone fragment she is uncovering today belonged to someone who lived, loved, struggled, and died 2 million years ago. That ancient person could never have imagined that their bones would one day help future humans understand their own history. The study of human evolution teaches us that we are all connected to a vast family tree that stretches back millions of years. Every person alive today is descended from the brave individuals who left Africa, crossed mountains and oceans, and adapted to life in every environment on Earth. We carry their genes, their adaptations, and their legacy of survival in our own bodies. But perhaps the most important lesson from our evolutionary past is that humans have always been explorers and problem solvers. From the first upright steps on the African savanna, to the first controlled fires to the first ocean crossings, humans have always pushed beyond the limits of what seemed possible. This spirit of exploration and innovation continues today as humans explore space, cure diseases, and work to solve the challenges facing our modern world. The mysteries of human evolution remind us that there is still much to learn about who we are and where we came from. Each new discovery brings us closer to understanding the remarkable journey that transformed small groups of ancient apes into the complex, creative, globe-spanning species that humans have become. The story of that journey is not just ancient history. It is the foundation of everything that makes us human today.